Alright, so this is my Special Forces Episode 5 review, and it starts off super cute because Danny and Gus are talking about becoming parents. You know, if Gus and his boyfriend ever thought of becoming parents, if Danny ever thought of becoming a dad, and so it ended with Gus basically flirting with Danny, and Danny caught on to it. So I've got to give Danny credit here. And when Gus said, "I'm going to start calling you Daddy," and Danny started cracking up. They have such an awesome relationship. I wish they would show more of it instead of this stupid drama. I mean, everybody knows they're going to get frustrated, and everyone did get frustrated. So, Danny is now given extra responsibility because he's so damn good. So, Danny makes sure that their stations are set up. He does everything he's supposed to make the rest of the recruits look good. And, okay. For some reason I thought all of that was part of Mike Piazza's job, but I guess not. Which makes me wonder who was doing it before. But, so they get their next assignment, which is to rappel off a 75-meter tower. Now, they said it was 230 feet. Now, I would think Gus would know that because a lot of sports go by meters, especially sports that are done around the world. So I would expect him and Carly to be able to make that calculation, but let me find out. 75 meters to feet. 246 feet, so they were a little low. But anyway, so the idea was to run up the stairs and with their rucksack on, run up the stairs and then rappel down the tower side. Now, again, I'm thinking, because they're talking about, needing good form and blah, blah, blah. I thought, okay, this is going to be Gus's challenge, because that's the whole point of Big Air. Not just to do tricks, but to do it pretty. So I thought, again, okay, this is something Gus can do. And, yeah, Gus just keeps crushing my expectations in the worst way. But anyway, so, they show a few of them, and then it was a montage, which I was surprised about, because I thought at this point, since there's only half of them left, that they wouldn't be showing any montage anymore. But so most people failed. Like I said, Gus from the moment go failed. I'm like, why are you doing this to me? Who is this Gus Kenworthy I've been watching in the Olympics and other competitions in Big Air? Because this is not the Gus Kenworthy we are seeing. I'm actually really disappointed. But the best line came from Mooch when he said, when the first person went up, which I think was Danny, and Danny was saying how hard it was, he goes, I've got athletes telling me having a hard time with this. Jesus help me. I'm like, yeah, because I figured if anybody could do that, it would be a wide receiver. Now, granted, you're running upstairs 246 feet, so obvious with a 30-pound rucksack, so it's not going to be easy, but he was probably in the best position to do this. Him, and I figured Gus and Carly. Mainly because these three just recently retired. I don't know how long Dwight Howard had been retired. I don't remember. But I'm like, okay, these guys are just retired. They're still in decent shape. Obviously, I was concerned for Piazza because, you know, he's just a smidge older than me, which my heart sank whenever they mentioned that Piazza was old. I'm like, oh man. Which I might add, Rudy is only a couple years younger than him. Rudy is like my age, and yeah. But anyway, so Mooch was like, oh god, I thought he was going to drop. I really thought he was going to die on the way up. Remy was talking about Piazza doing that, but I thought actually Mooch was the one who was going to keel over on him. But, yeah. I think the only person who had fun this episode at all was Remy. Remy seemed to be having way too much fun. He's like, okay, who's my next victim? And this was after he's done it a few times already. And that just made it more amazing how hard this is, because granted, Remy wasn't rappelling down the tower, but how many times and in how quick succession he was running up 246 feet. And he has to get down somehow, because, I mean, I highly doubt he, granted running downstairs is so much easier than running up, but still. So he's probably running up and down the stairs twice what everybody else is doing. And he doesn't even seem like he's breaking a sweat. So, yeah, Gus was a crushing disappointment again. I felt so bad for Gus. I'm like, what is going on here? Why is this so hard? I realized he was still, winded from running up the stairs, but I figured if anybody could get form right, it would be the acrobat. But no, he so far has so horribly underperformed to my expectations. So everybody else was doing well. Dwight impressed me. He impressed me. Of course, it's also easier that you don't have to rappel into the tower as much because his legs are so freaking long. So he basically is just doop, doop with his toes, which is, one of the benefits of being 6'8". I think he's 6'8". So, but yeah, he impressed me the most of what we saw. So yeah, I think he actually impressed the staff too. Even though they were calm about it. I think he really impressed them that, holy shit, this big guy just did this. And so yeah, and Hannah's been crushing it. Carly, she's been having issues as well, which anyway, so most people failed, and so they were all standing in the line of shame and getting yelled at by Billy. So then it was on to, going back home and then going to the camp and then, recharging for the next challenge. And the person they call in was Piazza because they loved his work ethic, but Remy even joked that he thought he was going to die on them. And I'm just like, as I said, I thought Mooch was even worse off than Piazza, but Piazza seemed like he was having a lot of problems as well. And so he was explaining his mindset and where he gets it from. So the show, it seems, is part doing special forces stuff and seeing if you have what it takes to even consider becoming special forces, and part therapy. Which makes sense. Which I guess makes sense because in order to get past whatever barrier you set for yourself, therapy is probably the best place for that. So they assured him that his father would be proud of him, and they basically said that they're proud of him. So, he was one of the few people who had a positive experience with meeting with the staff. And, so then they were joking about, what they have to eat. Kenya, strangely, was the one who was leading into stretches. And, of course, Gus turned it into twerking. But, okay. He was being a goof, but we already knew he's a goof. But that was just bizarre to me. The one person who isn't an athlete, mostly athletes are left. It's Kenya, Mooch, and Hannah are the only non-athletes. And it was the non-athlete who was leading in stretches. All right. Especially since, again, Gus is an acrobat. He especially should know how to do stretches. So, yeah, all athletes should be familiar with different types of stretches. Why is Kenya leading in that? That was bizarre. But then they got called into another challenge. And this challenge was to try and save themselves and the asset that they're trying to get out of a war zone. So, now they said that they were going to put more pressure on Danny, but they put plenty of pressure on all of them. I don't think I guess at the end they did single out Danny, but during this challenge, they were treating everyone differently. And Gus seemed to think he was an action hero. He seems to have watched way too many TV shows and movies in war zones because he seemed to want to go after the bad guy rather than saving himself and his asset, which is the point of, because they aren't going out of their way to be action heroes. Anyway, so most people failed. Hannah did well. Let's see. Dwight did well. And one other person, I'm blanking. Hannah, Dwight. Who else? I think maybe Danny. I think Danny actually did the task well. So, then it was time to put their stuff away and to go into the cars. And Danny was already expressing frustration with the way he's being talked to, because while he was in the car, he said he called him bro, but we heard him call him dude. Either way, that's not the dynamic here. Not the dynamic you're going for. So, for someone who said about how, oh, my father was in the military and I was considering going into the military if I didn't get a scholarship. Well, yeah, you probably wouldn't have made it in the military then if this is your attitude. Because they even said, whether it's fair or not, we're it. You have to listen to us. Which, on the one hand, their justification made sense. On the other hand, do you still have to be dicks about it? But, so, yeah, I think it was more of a, not so much that it was being informal, but maybe that they were trying to basically knock out any semblance of, slang. Maybe. That definitely happened. That's definitely what I think happened later. Ugh. So, Danny and Billy get into it, but Gus had the best attitude about it. He's like, yes, this is frustrating, but I'm learning something new. I'm learning about military mindset, so I'm just letting it happen, even though it is frustrating, getting yelled at all the time. So Gus has a really good attitude about it. And so Billy and Danny get into it, and they even point out that, even if you're alone, we still know, even though the challenge is over, we're still watching you. So they hear what's going on. It's not like they're completely unaware. They're completely oblivious to how the recruits feel about them. So he gets into a spat with Danny, and Danny starts talking about respect, and I'm thinking, the very first thing they told you when they abducted you from the train is, we own you. Exactly what is it about that phrase that screams, we respect you? Exactly. I mean, granted, respect is important, and they probably do respect them. That's just it. They just have to be hard asses right now. And I'm just like, yeah, it's frustrating, and I would never put myself in that position willingly, but where did you get the idea that the whole idea was them to respect you? I mean, yes, Gus decided he was going to be an action hero, but at least he watches movies. He knows this is the military mindset. So, as frustrating as it is, he's going with the flow. So, but anyway, he threatens to quit, and Mooch is right there with him. He's like, I'm gonna quit too. And Carly's like, chill. And, I really think that Mooch is just using Danny's rage quit, his threat of rage quitting, as being as an excuse to leave, because that way his ego would be assuaged that, oh, I was just standing in solidarity with Danny. It's not that I couldn't hack it or anything. Which he can't. And I would be fine if he left. Because, I mean, again, I'm not a fan of Mooch. I think he's horribly annoying. But I don't want him dropping dead either. And yes, I know he doesn't drop dead. But still. But by the time they get back to the camp, Danny is still, I guess, fuming because Mooch keeps walking next to him, assuring him that if he leaves, that Mooch is leaving too. So, and then they started talking amongst themselves, and someone said, "Let Carly speak." So Piazza starts speaking, and Gus finally laid into him that, they said, "Let Carly speak," and you start speaking, not Carly. And he's like, "But I just wanted to tell people not to talk over each other." Dude, you literally just did that. You literally just did that. Carly has a voice. I mean, she is a soccer player. She spends most of her time screaming down the field. She can speak up. Her voice can carry. It's okay. But so yeah, everybody is super frustrated at this point. So Carly said her 2 cents, and then Piazza said what the staff was really doing. Danny is the best of all of us, and so they're putting all the pressure on him. They're picking on him because they want to see what he has. And I'm like, I always liked you. I mean, I was not a fan of his team, but I really wasn't a fan of his team. But I never had a problem with him. I mean, I always liked Piazza. So, even as a player. And, so then Danny gets called in, and unlike everybody else who they have a guard, and they put the sack over your head and lead you into what looks like an interrogation room. This time, he just takes Danny into the medic area and basically lays down the law, which Rudy did as well. He walks up and he explains to everybody, there's a reason why we're called jarheads. So they basically did the same thing, only Rudy was much nicer about it. And yeah, Billy and Danny were still having their issues. And this is where I think they're also trying to knock the slang out, because Danny said, "Here's the deal." Now, anybody who knows that expression knows there's no actual deal about to be mentioned. It's just an expression of, this is the way I see things, not a literal deal. But Billy stopped him. And so he asked him, "What do you want to do?" And I'm just hoping that because it was left on a cliffhanger, that Danny will have cooled down by then and decide that, calm down at least a little and realize that, okay, Gus has a point, that these guys, and they said it themselves, whether it's fair or not, what we say goes, and you have to listen to us, because if you start talking back and you're in a war zone, you're dead. So hopefully Danny will think of the others and he'll stay. I really, really hope he stays. I hope that this cliffhanger is just to then we'll find out that he actually does choose to stay. Because Mooch, I think it was Mooch who thought he was leaving when after his number was called. It's like, he's leaving. It's like, his number was called. What are you talking about? Oh. So, that's how it ends. They showed scenes from next week, and they were at a challenge. And again, they had at least a portion of the challenge where I'm like, okay, Gus can do this. And he actually did do the zip line portion the first day just fine. But I'm like, again, he can do this one. So hopefully there isn't some twist that they exhaust them to the point that it makes it harder to do the zip line, because very few people could do the zip line the first time. So, and they even said that the point of these challenges is not who passes the challenges, but who are mentally tough enough to bounce back from a fail. So, so yeah, I do think that Danny's gonna stay. Obviously, in the preview for next week, they didn't show whether Danny stayed, because, well, what's the point of a cliffhanger if your trailer is going to show the results? So of course they're not going to show whether Danny survived, whether Danny is staying. But yeah, I think he's going to stay. I really think that he's going to be given the opportunity to calm down, realize that, you know, that Piazza is right, that they're just doing this to him because of how good he is. So, but we will find out next week. And let me think if I missed anyone. I think I covered everyone because, again, not many people passed the challenge. I was bitterly disappointed in Gus. No, I think I covered everything. So I will see you guys next time.